I would love to hurt him and finish him and put him out.
How was he punching? Was it hurting you?
Like a son, he punches like a mule kick. Unbelievable. Excuse my French, please. Oh, my God.
It's time!
You're listening to the Cage Nation TV Prizefight Podcast. Coming to you from the Coastal Cameron Studios in Wilmington, North Carolina.
Are you ready?
Here's your host, the big fella, Albert Cameron.
Let's get it on!
Thank you for joining us for the Prizefight Podcast. I'm your host, the big fella, Mr. Albert Cameron, and my three favorite words in the English language in this combination are, it's fight week. All roads are leading to Raleigh, North Carolina, to the Kerr Scott Building at the North Carolina State Fairgrounds. Big main event, a huge card, and I'm giving you a lot of reasons why you don't want to miss it. I'm telling you about experiences from the last Next Level Fight Club, why I'm looking forward to this one coming up, why it is in your best interest to get a ticket and be in attendance for Next Level Fight Club 7. I'm not doing this for me. I'm already going to be there. Okay? As soon as I saw the last Next Level Fight Club, I was like, okay, I need to be here. So when it was announced for Next Level Fight Club 7, I was like, okay, call my travel agent. I'm already making arrangements. I'm ready to go. I'm telling you why you need to be in attendance for your best interest. And one of the most proof positive reasons why you need to be at Next Level Fight Club 7 is the Next Level Fight Club heavyweight champion will not be defending his title on the Next Level Fight Club 7 card. And why is that, Albert? Because the pretty boy Alan Crowder was recently picked up by Bellator. Let me say that again because it bears repeating. The number 2 promotion in North America picked up a local fighter from Raleigh, from the North Carolina area, to be a part of their stable. We talked about it. Bellator is going to start a free agent arms race, and the UFC is going to have to respond in kind if the UFC wants to be relevant in the upcoming days of mixed martial arts. And where are they going to go to for these things? They're going to go to regional promotions. So get your tickets right now. You can get them at nextlevelfightclub.com/tickets. Again, that is nextlevelfightclub.com/tickets, and be in attendance. I got a lot more other reasons why you need to be in attendance at the Kerr Scott Building. Before we get into the Prizefight Podcast, though, I just want to send out a big congratulations to Saul Canelo Alvarez getting the unanimous decision victory over Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. in a bout that maybe wasn't the bout he wanted to fight, but he got the victory anyway. September 16th, Canelo Alvarez will be taking on Triple G Gennady Golovkin in a bout that is being called the biggest bout in boxing by Oscar De La Hoya. De La Hoya having a lot more boxing championships than I do, maybe there's something behind that. When we come back, we're going to be getting into the bones, to the structure, to all the reasons why you need to be in Raleigh this coming Saturday, right here on the Prizefight Podcast. Don't go nowhere. Cage Nation TV would like to take a second and formally thank all of the businesses that have taken the time to sponsor a mixed martial artist or a boxer as they have trained to attain greatness. In the world of business, it can be looked at as an advertising expense to get your name out there. But did you know that your sponsorship dollars is actually keeping the American dream alive? Your help and support is actually changing the lives of aspiring athletes. Working hard and reaching for the brass ring is truly the great American story. We encourage all of our listeners and followers to support businesses that sponsor your favorite fighters. And thank you to those businesses for your continued support and encouragement. Welcome back to the Prizefight Podcast. Of course, I'm the big fellow, Mr. Albert Cameron, and I am so excited for Next Level Fight Club 7. It never fails. When I sit down to break down a regional card, I sit down with the fight card, I start looking at stats, I start digging into fight histories, I start looking at finishes. I actually even created a spreadsheet to break down statistics for me. Okay, like this is the kind of stuff that gets me out of bed in the morning, that brings me to the microphone every weekend. Like, this is the stuff I live for. So this, me telling you why you need to be at the Next Level Fight Club 7, I'm getting just as much out of it as what you guys will by actually being in attendance. Now, the fight is going down at the North Carolina State Fairgrounds at the Kerr Scott Building. Is it Kerr or Carr? Let me ask, I need someone from Raleigh to clarify this for me. Is it the Kerr Scott Building or the Kerr Scott Building? Because here in Wilmington, Carr Street is spelled Kerr. So is it Carr Scott or Kerr Scott? Either way, the building is located at 1025 Blue Ridge Road in Raleigh, North Carolina. You can still get your tickets at www.nextlevelfightclub.com/tickets. Again, nextlevelfightclub.com/tickets. Next Level Fight Club is doing such a tremendous job putting on a fight card, bringing you quality fights, bringing the great fight experience. These tickets are not going to last long. Okay, don't wait till fight day. Get your tickets now. And if you order your tickets online and it's, too soon to arrive them by the mail, tickets will be at will call. That's how easy it is to be a part of one of the hottest fight cards, without a doubt, to kick off the summer. I'm going to be talking about a couple fights today on the Prizefight podcast. If I don't cover a fight or a fighter, it's not because I don't think they're not worthy of talking about. It's because I don't know enough about them to accurately report on what's going on. Now, of course, fight card, always subject to change. That is the nature of the fight business, my friends, that people get injured in training. They come in overweight, which was the case of last Next Level Fight Club. But we also, life happens, and we need to understand that. From the last Next Level Fight Club, the news was that Alan Crowder, the pretty boy, Next Level Fight Club undefeated heavyweight champion, asterisk, undefeated as Next Level Fight Club champion, picked up by Bellator. He'll be fighting in Charlotte on May 20th at the Motor Speedway. And I tell you guys, go to these fights because these fights matter. These fights have regional, national, global implications. Alan Crowder is one of the most unique heavyweights I've seen in the last 10 years. If Alan Crowder really wanted to cut weight, I bet he can make light heavyweight. It would suck. That weight cut would suck. But I bet Alan Crowder can make light heavyweight. Alan Crowder weighs in right at that cusp of he's nimble for heavyweight or he'd be an absolute mountain at light heavyweight. He's chosen to go heavyweight. He's nimble, he's flexible, he's also powerful, and he's fearless. Richard White weighed in over 300 pounds last Next Level Fight Club, and Alan Crowder was still ready to fight him. Despite a 70-pound weight difference, Crowder was willing to fight him. So that's the kind of stuff that happens when you go to a regional fight. Dominic Mazzata, who has been on Cage Nation TV, who I've talked to on our program, who I've met in person, who, the first time I ever saw a fight in Pittsburgh, we talked to Dominic Mazzata, picked up by Bellator. It's in your best interest, folks. Get your tickets now. So, first fight I want to talk about. Dwan Dirty South Owens versus Marquez Daniels. If I'm pronouncing that wrong, I apologize. I'm just not used to names yet. So if you're Mr. Daniels and you see me, make sure you correct me if I pronounce your name wrong. I will not take offense to it. I would actually appreciate the assist. So I'm at the last Next Level Fight Club. I'm in Next Level Fight Club 6, and everyone in that promotion is so gracious. They're so nice to talk to. They were very, very accommodating for all of us, and I appreciate that. But I realized that I don't know anybody in Raleigh. I'm going out there, I'm making contacts, I'm covering great fights, and Next Level Fight Club was absolutely wonderful about accommodating that. So I'm taking my seat cage side, and I see someone who looks very, very familiar. I see a long head of hair. I'm seeing a very familiar stature. I'm hearing a voice that sounds so familiar, and I'm like, man, I think I know who that is. And I know this person because I've called their fights, and I've met them in person, and I know what they are capable of. That person was Dwan Dirty South Owens. And he was also so very gracious to talk to me about stuff. It was great catching up with the man. And for me, it's exciting to bring that full circle. Now I know people in the Raleigh area. I'm able to relax a lot more. I'm able to feel more comfortable because I know people in the area. Dwan Dirty South Owens is taking on Marquez Daniels. Now, without a doubt, Dwan Owens is going to be one of the most experienced guys on a fight card. He's a journeyman with 26 fights. He has a record of 14, 11, and 1. And his stoppage ratios are absolutely incredible. Dwan Owens, when he's not actively competing in mixed martial arts, he's keeping himself busy, whether it be kickboxing or grappling tournaments. Dwan Owens keeps himself busy. Owens himself has a submission victory over UFC veteran Dustin Pig. That right there tells you something. His statistics are saying that Dwan Owens is a competitor. He's a sharp competitor, and he's headed for the next level. No pun intended. He is indeed headed for the next level. But to have a submission victory over a UFC veteran, UFC, in my opinion, is the pack leader, is the alpha male right now as far as global mixed martial arts goes. Risen Fighting Federation is great, but they just don't have the quality of talent. So we have a man who has a victory over someone who has broken into that upper echelon. Without a doubt, Dwan Owens is headed for that upper echelon himself. For my folks in Pittsburgh, you know the name Dwan Dirty South Owens. Had a wonderful fight against the Pride of Bloomfield, Mark Jericho. The first time I ever saw Dwan Owens fight, Complete Devastation MMA 4 in Johnstown, Pennsylvania, I got to call the fight. And as a matter of fact, it was one of the first fights I got to call. One of the first fighters I got to interact with as I'm starting my journey as someone who covers mixed martial arts. It was Dwan Owens. He was in the main event against Brett Ewing. And Dwan Owens is such a powerhouse. You know, in his 14 wins, 5 knockouts, 5 submissions, 4 victories. So let's think about what the numbers are telling us here. Dwan Owens can stop a man, knock him unconscious. Dwan Owens can twist a man in such a way that he will lose the will to fight. And he also has the gas tank to keep going and finish strong whenever time runs out. Those statistics right there tell the tale of a man who was born to fight. Dwan Owens is ready to grind. He's ready to go. Now, Marquez Daniels, no slouch himself. And I found that with the recent adoption of the unified rules of mixed martial arts, athletic commissions are not allowing mixed matches. We always praise Pennsylvania for being the state that did not allow mixed matches. Well, neither does North Carolina. And the reason being is, if a fighter gets involved in a mixed match fight and gets hurt, who is on the line? The sanctioning body. So they just won't allow it. Careful progress goes into that. Daniels himself, and this was one that kind of struck me, was that Daniels himself is a Strikeforce veteran. Strikeforce, the promotion that really ran neck and neck after Pride FC folded. And then the UFC needed competition. Strikeforce that launched with Frank Shamrock versus Cesar Gracie. Strikeforce. Daniels is a Strikeforce veteran. Now, in all of his experience, he's only fought twice for one promotion. So he's got 10 fights under his belt. 11 fights. And only 2 of them have been for the same promotion twice. So he is traveling. That statistics tell me he is traveling to all kinds of fight circuits. He's trying to get as much diverse experience as possible. And that kind of traveling, that willing to go out and seek the fights, is what makes a fighter sharp, but also dangerous. So what we have is, we have fights in volume, with Dwan Owens having 26 fights, Marquez Daniel having 11. Daniel's experience a little more diverse, but Dwan Owens is bringing quantity, like a bulk of experience. If Marquez Daniels is going to stop the fight, it'll likely be by submission. Dwan Owens' statistics say he could easily stop the fight by knockout or submission. If Dwan Owens is going to lose, it's going to be by decision. 64% of his losses have been decision. And when you think about that number, a decision loss is in the judge's hands. It's in a third party's hands at that point. You fought your fight. The other man could not stop you. Now you're relying on 3 other individuals to decide who won the fight. And judges are great, but they are not free of error. Marquez Daniels, if he's going to lose, it could be by submission or decision. So we have a submission specialist against someone who could lose by submission, but we also have a submission specialist who is also willing to go the distance. When I'm breaking down a fight, I don't like talking about why a guy has lost. And I need to preface that with, I really believe that losses are learning opportunities that are showing you where your ground might need work on that ever-vigilant quest to be the complete martial artist. Mixed martial artists are not thugs, they're not street fighters, they are martial artists. And the quest of martial artists is constantly heading towards self-improvement. What I'm seeing when I look at these stats, I'm seeing 2 men who are very good at what they do. They have incredible experience. Dwan Owens has fought for the XFC, which is huge down here in the South. Marquez Daniels fought for Strikeforce. Owens has a victory over a UFC veteran. We have 2 fighters with incredible momentum heading towards the same direction. I really can't pick a winner. I'm looking, and when I break down the stats of a fight, I'm looking at the different percentages. So I'm looking at the win percentage. Both guys are really close. I'm looking at method of victory. So, knockouts, submissions, decisions, all that. Very close. Even though Dwan Owens has more fights, Marquez Daniels has a very similar win ratio. So while Owens has more fights, their statistics, their numbers, the metrics of performance are very, very similar. Notable fights for both of them. Dustin Page, of course, for Dwan Owens. Brett Ewing, Myron Baker. The bout with Mark Cherico was really good. For Daniels, he, had an excellent bout against Josh LaGrange, Abdel Taha. I'm at a loss. I really am. And I normally don't pick winners to begin with, but these numbers are really confusing me because of how close they are. Now, there's one surefire way to find out who's going to win the fight. 100% accurate every time. One surefire way to know who's going to win, and that's by being in attendance at the Carr Scott Building at 1025 Blue Ridge Road. Get your tickets right now at nextlevelfightclub.com/tickets. In the co-main event of the evening, we have Hannah Cifers against Jillian Roberts. Cifers is 3-1-0. Roberts 2-2-0. So two ladies with 4 fights as professionals. Amateur records are not being included here. And these ladies are coming to fight now. I remember going to a fight once, and it was Jessica Richmond versus Jamie Chesney. And the fight was being billed as the cat fight on the Turnpike. And I think that was the last time I ever heard a women's MMA fight referred to as like that. And the reason being is, women's MMA is essentially MMA. We're getting to the point now where we don't need to put the W in front of MMA. Because women are capable athletes who can do anything that a man can do in a cage. In fact, I can say that some of the most memorable fights I've ever seen have been between women who are going out there ready to scrap, who don't need shorter rounds. If you think about the first televised MMA fight between women on cable, it was Gina Carano versus Julie the Fireball Kedzie. That fight was contested under 3 3-minute rounds. And that bothered me because they're female athletes. Why do they need shorter rounds? Their bodies are capable of bringing life into the world. And yet a man can fight 5 minutes, a woman can fight 3? No. In the last 10 years, we've really progressed great as a sport. So Hannah Cifers and Jillian Roberts is an MMA fight between 2 athletes, and that's all that really needs to be said about any extenuating circumstances about gender. That's where it stops. That's where it needs to stop. Hannah Cifers, of her 3 wins, 1 by knockout, 2 by decision. Of her losses, 1 by decision. And again, we just talked about decision. A decision means the judges were allowed to rule, and no judge is free of human error. Jillian Roberts, we have a submission victory and a decision victory. And then 2 losses by decision. So, think about that metric right now. In our co-main event, we have 2 women who have never been stopped in their pro careers. They've never been forced to tap out. They've never been separated from consciousness. So again, that is 2 athletes who are grinding towards the same goal of victory. With having decision victories, they're ready to go the distance. They have the gas tank. They have the conditioning for it. For a knockout, Hannah Cifers has separated someone from consciousness. Jillian Roberts, so able to pull out a submission victory. To quote Vin Diesel in the movie Fast and the Furious, a win is a win, whether it's by an inch or by a mile, but winning's winning. When you get someone to tap out to say, I'm done fighting, I've lost the will to fight, that's winning by a mile. And same with a knockout, that is winning by a mile. Both fighters have fights with Mickey Rogers. So what that's saying is they are testing themselves against the same caliber of skill. Women's MMA can become kind of challenging to find fights and find fighters. Down here in the South, they're doing a wonderful job of arranging those fights. Back in the day when Debbie Purcell was just breaking into the sport, you might be lucky if you have 5 fights in your career. When you're running in the same circles, you're creating rivalries. You're becoming a name for yourself. So you're Hannah Cifers, hey, you got some victories. You're Jillian Roberts, you're fighting the same kind of people. It's only a matter of time before those 2 come head to head. Now, although Cifers has the highest win ratio, Roberts has much more in depth with her amateur career, with more amateur title fight experience. An amateur career is nothing to really get upset about. So if you come out of your career as an amateur with, say, 5 wins and maybe 9 losses, all that's saying is that you have thoroughly explored your opportunities for improvement, and whenever you're given the green light to go as a pro, you're ready. You have thoroughly investigated your body's limitations and what levels need to be exceeded. So Jillian Roberts has a very thorough amateur career. And if I'm not mistaken, she was extremely successful in her amateur career. The fight will likely end in a hard-fought decision. So I am a man who is a big fan of statistics. Okay? And what I'm seeing an explosive fight that's going to go the distance. Both of these fighters are willing to grind it out. They clearly have good conditioning. They have the ability to ration their gas tank. That's very important when you talk about a fighter who wins by majority of decisions. They need to condition themselves. They need to be ready to ration their energy to get to the next bout, to get to the next round. In the 10-point must system, when a round is over, that's it. So in a fight, you have 3 mini fights. So even though like Hannah Cifers could beat the snot out of Jillian Roberts in the first round, that doesn't matter. Jillian Roberts has 2 more mini fights to get the job done. And I think that is a hard thing that we don't really concentrate on often. We're thinking, oh yeah, well she did okay in the third, but well, what about the first? She was getting destroyed. Well, the first doesn't matter. The first mattered in the first. And then it's done. We forget all about the first, and the first round has no bearing in the second and third. Both of these fighters have excellent management of energy to get them through decision rounds. And that is what makes a great fight. So what I'm saying is, I'm seeing both of these fighters going to a hard-fought decision. There's going to be punches thrown. There's going to be submission attempts. It's going to be human chess. It's going to be exciting. I'm sitting here looking, and I can't honestly say... neither fighter's been stopped. So I'm trying to formulate an opinion. Who do I give advantage to? And I can't, because neither fighter's been stopped. You can't lay merit of victory against someone who's only had decision losses, because you can't... There's no way to take human error into the consideration of the metric. Yeah, the number's saying, oh, she lost twice by decision, but again, what if the judges are having a bad day? You can't take that into consideration. If she was stopped, absolutely. That doesn't say she has a glass jaw, but she might have fought people with better striking ability. And I got nothing. They're both decisions. And so that's why I'm seeing this fight going to a hard and heavy grind. Another excellent fight, no doubt, brought to you by Next Level Fight Club. Get your tickets right now at nextlevelfightclub.com/tickets. You don't want to miss this fight. There's a lot of fights on the fight card that I'm really excited to see. But the 3 that I'm mentioning today are the main reasons why I'm going. And whether or not you want to be there as well, it would be in your best interest to absolutely do so. In the main event of the evening, Coach Chase Gamble taking on Jeremy Perdue. Coach Gamble. If I had a last name like Gamble, I'd have a nickname like the Maverick or like, the card player or something like that. He goes by Coach. And the reason is he is a wrestling coach. And if you know anything about wrestlers, they are very serious individuals, especially when it comes to competition. Now, of course, everyone in the public spotlight knows Chase Gamble from that slam loss to Alan Crowder. But let's be honest, that loss was nothing to be ashamed of. Chase Gamble took that fight on 12 hours notice, not even 24. He was contacted that Saturday morning of the fight and said, hey, do you have your medicals? Can you make weight? And he did. Okay, 12 hours. I get up in the morning on a Saturday. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing 12 hours from now. I like to try to plan 24 hours ahead, maybe 48. If I got big plans for the weekend, like I have for Saturday coming up, being in Raleigh, North Carolina, I like to be prepared for that, for plan. Chase Gamble is such a warrior. He said, you know what? Yeah, I'll take a title fight on 12 hours notice. At 7 a.m., he agreed to fight Alan Crowder at 7 p.m. Started an event starting at 7 p.m. What is often overshadowed by that slam is that Chase Gamble was not outclassed in that fight whatsoever. Alan Crowder is a freak of nature. I mean, he's big and he's powerful, but so is Chase Gamble. And Chase Gamble was fighting at heavyweight, and he had no time to cut weight. This fight against Jeremy Perdue is going to be a light heavyweight bout. So Gamble has had time to prepare. He's had time to manage a weight cut, and he's got skill on his side. When he fought Alan Crowder, there were a couple times that Chase Gamble had Crowder in trouble. If you watch that fight, and I think it's still available at www.flowcombat.com, if you watch that fight, Chase Gamble was able to use wrestling skill, he was able to use pressure, he was able to use cage positioning to get Crowder to the point where Crowder had to scramble to get out of some of those offensive maneuvers. Chase Gamble is an incredibly flexible individual. He was able to position himself to get into positions of offense. Crowder's a very heavy-handed guy. So is Chase Gamble. Chase Gamble is a supreme athlete, though. To fight on 12 hours notice against a man who's had, let's say, months to prepare for a fight, and you're fighting on 12 hours, what training can you do in 12 hours? And ask yourself this. What training can you accomplish in 12 hours? You can barely hope to make weight in 12 hours. You've had zero time to prepare. So Chase Gamble went to that fight with Alan Crowder relying purely, and I mean purely, on instinct. Okay, Chase Gamble had to go into that fight in a reactionary fight mode. And I haven't had a chance to talk to Coach, but I'm sure he's going to tell you the same thing, that he had to rely on not having a fight plan, that he had to go in there to react. He had no idea what Crowder had coming for him. I mean, you can't prepare for a fight on 12 hours. How many tapes can you watch in 12 hours to thoroughly plan? No. Gamble had to react to Alan Crowder, and that's exactly what he did. And Gamble had conditioning on his side. Most wrestlers do. Gamble, of his 2 wins as a professional, 2 of them have been by decision because he is able to grind it out to get to the finish. He's able to endure. He's able to sweat. He's able to just make things happen. Of course, we know the one loss to Crowder, which is no surprise, and there was a submission loss. But as a light heavyweight, as an amateur light heavyweight, Gamble has title fight experience. I think he was a Next Level Fight Club amateur light heavyweight champion. Now, as many praises I'm saying about Chase Gamble, let's not kid ourselves. Jeremy Purdue is a very dangerous individual, and there's a reason why he's in the main event of Next Level Fight Club 7. The man has the ability to stop a man, he has the ability to submit a man, and he's also willing to go the distance. That might be problematic for Coach. When Coach is able to go the distance, he's predominantly the winner according to the stats. But when a fight is stopped early, Coach might be on the losing end of that. Whenever Jeremy Purdue is unable to get the win, it's because there's a decision. He also might have been submitted. So what we have here is we have a complete puzzle piece, a complete jigsaw kind of event happening where we have 2 fighters who are able to play into each other's strengths and also work against each other's weaknesses. That right there is what makes an incredible main event. Jeremy Purdue had 2 incredible bouts that come to mind against Matt Heim and Nick Grady. Of course, Gamble had an incredible bout against Eric Ellerby. The point I am trying to make about this main event is Gamble was not given appropriate time to really display what he could do. Jeremy Purdue is a young and hungry fighter who is coming to make a name for himself. Right now, the heavier weights in Next Level Fight Club have a great opportunity to prove themselves. Because the world's going to take notice of Alan Crowder. And they're going to start looking into his other fights. Of course, the bout with Chase Gamble is going to come up. And when people look into that fight, they're going to look into Gamble's record. They're going to look into his career. And then they're going to look into Jeremy Purdue's career. So right now is a huge opportunity to get noticed for both of these guys. They have a great opportunity to make an impact, to make names for themselves, to get heard, to be seen, and likely to be picked up. Bellator, again, free agent arms race. Okay, they're picking up the regional guys. They're picking up the best regional guys. As of late, one of the best divisions in Bellator was light heavyweight. Chase Gamble and Jeremy Purdue would both make great additions to that. So, that is one of those big reasons to be in attendance. Now, here's another interesting little factoid. Chase Gamble's last fight. He was a light heavyweight. In this fight, he's coming in as a light heavyweight who was coming down from heavyweight. Purdue is coming up from middleweight. Historically, coming up from middleweight. We have 2 natural light heavyweights. Purdue might not have to cut weight as much. Gamble might be bigger in this fight. There are too many ifs, too much X factors for me to make a solid decision. I think Gamble has enough natural ability that if you, I know he has enough natural ability. You step into a title fight with a heavyweight champion who is undefeated as heavyweight champion for that promotion, and you have to rely purely on instinct to get you through the bout, you got natural ability. Jeremy Purdue has a great opportunity to prove himself. Like I said, for the last Next Level Fight Club, it is huge. A great opportunity to get seen. When you go to these fights, it's not for me. It's for you. You get to say that you saw these guys win. You best believe when you watch Alan Crowder on Bellator on May 20th, you're going to be elbowing your buddy, be like, hey, I saw that guy at Next Level Fight Club 6. You best believe that the people in Pittsburgh came out in force to support Dominic Mazzata when he went to Bellator, or Adam Milstead when he went to the UFC, or Chris Dempsey when he went to the UFC. You have an opportunity to contribute to your fight scene to really create opportunities for these fighters. These athletes, there is no fight without fighters. Without guys who are willing to strap on the gloves to train to fight, there is no sport. This is a great opportunity to support them. A promotion like Next Level Fight Club is going to lengths to bring you an incredible fight card. They are tapping into resources. They are making contacts. They are bringing the best possible fights to Raleigh, to North Carolina. Do yourself a favor. Visit www.nextlevelfightclub.com/tickets. Get yours today. And I think there might even be a VIP table left. There is no bad seat in the house. That venue is absolutely incredible for fights. But there's a VIP table. Regardless, get your tickets. Be ready to be at the building, at the Kerr Scott Building, 1025 Blue Ridge Road in Raleigh, North Carolina. Doors open at 6, bout start at 7. Huge main event. I'll see you guys there. Next week on the Prize Fight Podcast, we're going to be breaking down the Bayfront Brawl fight card happening in Erie, Pennsylvania. I will see you guys in Raleigh, North Carolina. And until next time, fights, Cameron, action.
Thank you for tuning in to the Cage Nation Prize Fight Podcast. All rights reserved. 2016 to 2017 Planet Aries Sports. The Prize Fight Podcast is part of the Cage Nation Broadcast Network. For more information, visit www.cagenationtv.com.